Hello. I feel my own you. You know what feel I know you? And there with her. It's your name. Your head. And this is your head. Remember, those words are frail. They're vulnerable. You don't want anyone touching those. You don't get hurt, do you? Not bad. Now let's try walking.
Alright. Hello and welcome back to Hermitage here. Let's continue on with the game and whatever that was. Alright. At last, Scarlet is back at the store. The talk rumors of spread has been spreading, so Scarlet's had to put down her work and devote more of her energy into this case. It still can't be ignored any longer. Will this threat develop any further? Sooner or later, the city's police force will become more agitated. A price can't afford to pay. This has to be dealt with, even if we're elected to do so. We have as good of a justification as any. So Justice not back yet? No, it seems like he's been working at the scene all night. I didn't want to ask too many questions about it. So, they really found? Is it true? Yeah, just texted me and confirmed it. He should be on the scene to aid with the investigation, since they entrusted the case to him. The police seem okay with him working autonomously. Given his fairly young age, that level of trust must be well founded. It can't be solely due to the fact that they all get along with each other. We should give him time to focus and deal with this. He doesn't need anything else piling up on top of it. Says the guy kicking his feet up in his comfy confines of his home. Hey, I can't always be the one to blame. I'm actually risking a lot, letting minors like you stay up all night encouraging your shenanigans. Also, quit acting like I'm just idling around doing nothing. Those bags in my eyes couldn't save me from a car crash by now. I can never tell if it's just you staying up all night or just some midnight crisis attempt and goth makeup. Anyway, it took me all night again, but I've gained some insight on stories in the Halberd. Is that the book they were looking for? Yeah. After aligning the seasons and our description of the grass and trees, it becomes a lot more vivid and interesting. Instantly, it made me realize that this is definitely not a book of domestic origin. Oh, why is that? The book mentions one ever-vicious general, forever caught in a cycle of battle after battle, who always appears in autumn, like clockwork. Places in his country have very odd names. Chinese names always contain some kind of ideographic information. Proximity to water, mountain valleys, fertile land, but in this case it's different. So I tried looking at it from an angle, analyzing the words only in terms of the various dialects and official pronunciations, only to arrive at the conclusion that they're probably derived from the English language. So, what's the problem? That's way too advanced. Use a foreign language of your actual name. Even if our ancestors were way smarter than we give credit for, this is just too much. Only if this method were to be acknowledged and applied around the globe could a code like this be used. The person who wrote this couldn't possibly have had that kind of knowledge. What else in that general story? His name itself is quite meaningful. Aldebaran, part of the Winter Hexagon, one of the four royal stars of ancient Persia. The locations surrounding this generals are named after the Taurus constellation, and he's the only person to have a name like that. The prominence of that specific star is evident by comparison. In other words, the opposing countries of the book were actually keeping track of celestial bodies? Exactly. Although there are probably many unknown factors involved, one thing is made very clear. Only the victors deserve to go to heaven. There is a huge back and forth for decades. The same pattern of defeating and being defeated, repeating itself over and over again. So, even with all those spooky rituals mentioned in the book, in the end it's really just a fancy timetable? I don't think we call the rituals meaningless just yet. According to what our strange visitor said, the book describes a way to discover the right time. So there does be some importance to them. You keep mentioning the general. He must play a key role in all of this. After you said everything you said, we should be able to derive some patterns from the celestial bodies, right? Right. With that approach, how would we find out the location of those guys who came looking for us? Well, parts of the Winter Triangle can only be seen in winter. At least that's what the internet tells me. That could be a clue. By filtering the times and places in general in the book we found himself in, we can construct a constant timeline. I have to say, nothing's more conspicuous than the sacrifice in which he served both general and priest. That part sticks out like a sore thumb. It just doesn't make sense. If a single person had that many military and religious responsibilities, it's not likely that such a big war would have kept going like that. It would simply have been unproductive. So you're just gonna use these rituals and as definite criteria? The aspect timing is important, but so is the ritual in sacrificial ceremony. Too much of the text is dedicated to it for it to be irrelevant. The author deliberately describes it in a long-winded way, probably an attempt to pass along knowledge for those who know the true meaning behind the book. And now it's our turn to crack this code. Headaches, here we come. There has to be a way. Invite beasts from the other realm, keep chanting in a clear and confident fashion. The sentence foreshadows almost the entire ceremony. It literally describes the main points of the ritual perfectly. Foreign legends and myths often feature the blowing of a horn or similar instrument to some mythical monsters, and this ceremony is probably no exception. Set the scene, summon the beast, and narrates response. That much seems clear. As for the beast mentioned in the book, it seems to have left its mark. Otherwise, we wouldn't be caught up in this whole affair in the first place. Alright, so what exactly could it be? Ooh, okay. I'm so ready. We discover there are many, indeed, dangers, other than a few villains in the Kangaroo neighborhood. I don't think it's that one. I feel like it's gotta be one of these three, but I have no idea which one. Sacrifice oxen in a barbaric way. I don't see how this one would be relevant. Yeah, still no. Leave the filthy earth for heaven. Maybe. Australian alien presence. While a duo will show up out of nowhere and join them. Maybe. There may be indeed dangers other than a few villains in the Kangaroo district. I mean, I don't disagree with that one. I mean, that's... I feel like I've got to add that one. I mean, it's the Legend of the Kangaroo District. Also, I'm curious. Did this change at all? I mean, it did, but I don't remember it changed. The book mysterious symbols made me realize that these represent the parents' identities as well as standing for sacrifice and passage. Okay. Still no idea that last paragraph is what helps me get the last clue, but that's in the past, that doesn't matter. Alright. So what else to add to this? I mean, I could do that one. The Whistle in the Night. I do feel like the other chapter was a lot easier with these. Because, like, all of these are not relevant. I mean, yeah, I could do that one. Obviously that's important, but I could also do that one, because that's important as well. Let's try it. Nope. Some parts still seem a little off. It's obvious that the beast must have left some traces. Now it's up for us to decipher the clues and determine what it is. Judged from this text, it must be very loud. Okay, so Screams of the Night. Since the entire ceremony seems to be directed at the sky, there probably bears a certain amount of meaning. Maybe people are considering a holy deity. Okay, so yeah, it is definitely a Book of the Gods. I have no idea which one. Okay, and the deliverer dropped off a lot of literature mentioned gods. Yeah, okay. So yes, it was one of these three. I don't know which one though. I mean, I'll keep that one. Start book. People feed it with blood and flesh as comrades. Having lost so much knowledge in exile, sacrifice offspring in a barbaric way. Let's just do this first. It's gonna be this one. We know that. We know that much. Clan source from bizarre dance, including 3 people performing various unrelated acts sequence. Soon they'll show up out of nowhere and join them. Okay. That doesn't seem relevant. Faraway human civilization, a group of conspirators. People feed it with blood and flesh and live with it as comrades. Having lost so much knowledge in exile, they have their sacrifice They sacrificed their offspring of a bark way to summon the Gargoyle. Okay. Sure, why not? I don't care anymore. There we go. Come on. Endanger Gargoyle. Okay. I like to add that our initial suspicions have basically been confirmed. Although people are involved in these murders, possibly many of them, most fatal injuries weren't inflicted by human hands. Book Shrines, Gods, and Messengers describes several myths about the servants who worship and aid their deities, many of which are non-human origin. I grabbed the book from the shelf and opened the fillers to see. The Gargoyle, for example, who serves a god in the vastness of the stars. It has wide wings, a horse's body, and insectuous traits. The servant is fed and nourished with blood and fresh meat until it completes its mission. No, it's not the building. Not many people seem to be living there, and we talked about it. The place gives the creeps. I've heard wind sounds weird over there, like chimes, scars. The kid's half deaf. Sometimes you hear a violin playing. True horror flick stuff out there. It's really creepy, gives me shivers. Imagination, out of tune, string instrument. You know what I mean? Or, I don't know, a horse sounds strangely distorted when it neighs. It's just this weird hissing sound that paralyzes you. The photograph Nico found is a sign that the family is involved in a ritual in which they must have acted as guardians. Now the rooftop is locked. Corpses are being carried from the building, blood dry. If we find out what kind of creature the books talk about, we can analyze the purpose of the ritual. At least we know what the blood's used for now. I flipped the pages to show the others, having identified the target. I spent a lot of time combing through the book for details. According to this, the Gargoyle can travel freely between the human world and the infinite stars and skies. It plays an important role as messenger between those planes of existence. It has bird wings, but I doubt they are of much use in such a cosmic environment. As soon as it leaves the atmosphere, it makes use of other body parts to move around. According to this book, the corresponding organ is located in the lower abdominal cavity, which is difficult to identify by appearance alone. It seems to directly affect the space around it, like a fish slicing through water, propelling its body forward. Honestly, I'm not sure how the principle is supposed to work. I suspect that it's something a human mind could grasp. Being a servant of a greater entity, the Gargoyle only descends from heavens when summoned. If such a being has really been here for decades, there must be a specific reason for that. Either has fulfilled its mission yet, or its means of traveler have been blocked, leaving it stranded down here. Good reason. Being trapped here on Earth for so long, I'm afraid this is a little more serious than just a bird with broken wings. When I have to send those things out loud, I do realize the severity of it all. And for a moment, everyone's at a loss of words. Saying and hearing all this feels liberating in a way, but none of it bodes well for what lies ahead. After a painstaking long silence, Nico sighs and begins the conversation again. I guess now's as good a time as any. That sounds ominous. Should I be worried? A teensy bit maybe? Alright. One at a time, please. Why do I snoop around on the company? An anonymous friend sent me a list of their employees. What? Hear me out. The list was processed electronically, but the information on it was clearly filled out manually. The form is full of unnecessary notes, much like something you see in the old days when you filled out a form by hand. And also, the date is 1989. A list of employees from almost 30 years ago? Well, I found the name of Miss Hang's family on it. Were both parents employees there?
Her husband was a technician, but it looks like he was marked for observation.
For being intellectual?
The intellectuals who came back from overseas, was there really anyone who left to study abroad at that time? I heard people say that in those days it was pretty much possible to leave the country.
That's true to a certain extent, but you should know how the best people always find their way around the rules they don't agree with.
Even before this, the founding of the Republic, there were many people who went to the US, buy labor trafficking, and settle down and have grandchildren there. People with strong enough drive have never allowed themselves to be limited by the times they live in. Thanks for the lesson. Anyway, the whole family was removed from the list and apparently wasn't able to work at the company anymore. Looks like they hadn't worked there that long compared to most people in the first place.
Alright. How peculiar.
Can't find the other old lady's name at all. It's pretty strange. Probably worked in another department or not at the company at all.
I mean, play Negative Nancy here, but can we really trust your anonymous friend?
We don't have much of a choice, do we? However, I never mentioned that to anyone that was investigating this matter, and this guy emailed me very spontaneously and on his own accord. Either he's more skilled than me, or just knows my habits a little too well. I find both hard to believe. But what counts now is that the email exists.
So you think we should be listening to someone who has the means to feed us such information anonymously?
If I were to live differently... But yeah.
Got it. Anything else?
We found records of similar cases right here in the country, not even too far away.
These past few days taught me anything. It's that life is truly full of surprises.
Let's face it, the material you provide is often gibberish, and actual crime research is more valuable than ancient, potentially inaccurate biographical information. So Scarlett took me to the library archives. By the way, I had to use a fake ID for that. I don't just have those lying around. So I think some financial compensation is in order. To be honest, we had nothing to show for it, but as luck would have it, we stumbled upon a nerd who overheard the conversation and happened to know quite a lot about the subject. We should talk to him all innocent and cute. I have nightmares now because I had to witness the whole thing.
Mesmerizing library nerds through seduction to gather information? Yep, okay, that sounds like Scarlett to. Tim used to seem like an angel or something.
Shut up. Do you want to die? Anyway, I tried to describe him to what was mentioned in the book and ended up hitting a home run. There was an uproar in the late 80s and a lot of farm animals disappeared throughout the country. But because they were a lot of religious sensitivities involved, hardly any records were filed.
I can imagine. Traditions run deep, and if word gets out about things like that, the public outcry tends to be immersed.
Anyway, when things like this happen in communities, police question those involved. In this case, they stumbled upon something they never expected, and that was straight from the nerd's mouth.
A little devil like you shouldn't be happy to have been born in a time with fewer harsh laws. You're basically a walking, talking crime.
Very funny. What it boils down to is that in these rural areas, some people were often obsessed with their faith that sacrificing human life seemed plausible to them. Law enforcement saw that a little differently.
So someone actually performed a sacrifice?
Yeah. But the way they were found out wasn't because of sacrifice itself. A quarry owner alerted the police because someone had been stealing rocks and stones, sometimes leaving strange marks behind.
They observe the scene, quietly follow the suspect. Scarlet stopped talking. At the secret hidden place, the police finally discovered the victim. The body was completely torn apart, twisted into an almost square shape, bones protruding. According to records, the culprits were a group of people called themselves the Visionary Society. They wore strange costumes as they sang and danced around the victim, and the fumes of smoke in the room were so dense it was almost impossible to see through them. A very chaotic scene. Chanting, dancing, calling Nancy's name, incense being burned. Sounds awful familiar, doesn't it? There are copies of the marks in the case file, although it's not exactly the same as the symbol in the family photo. It does look certainly familiar. So that might be the same people that summoned the Gargoyle? Mean they have bigger plans than just to summon it? Might have a reason. Otherwise, it would be too far. The risk is too far high. It just causing so many other problems. After all, it's classified as a servant, not some greater god. The difference alone implies the creature isn't actually omniscient. But what's still unclear is the whole stand like rocks line. Where does that fit in? In a little sense, there's a contradiction here. Why would they steal rocks for ritual when they're already using people to stand like rocks? Contorting and twisting their bodies and sacrificing them. I'd say that might just be in a crisis management mode. I'm no kidnapping expert, but I'd say that stealing a rock is easier than stealing a human being. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have been made that much difference as far as punishment for a crime that went in that area. We might never be able to figure out what exactly went on back then. Organized ceremony like that isn't as easy as the old ancient books make it out to be, especially not in modern times, right? You have to assume that you're under a lot of permanent scrutiny and can be reported to the police at any moment by anyone. It could be the guy fixing your toilet who reports you, you know? Yep. Gotta watch out for those devilish, evil sanitation workers. We know as much already. Is there anything else about this Visionary Society? I couldn't dig that much up. According to confession statements, its members are highly mixed social standings, working class farmers and intellectual academics alike. They're doing their thing in secrecy in the mountains, hibernating in the countryside for long periods of time. And you can't rule out the possibility that they switched to another name by now, gone by multiple names, and have enough false identities would make them nearly impossible to locate. What we do know for sure is that the raid shook them enough for the police to catch a few old men and foreigners who were well-expected members within the cult. These people will talk, but the leaders must be under constant pressure. Losing valuable members with inside knowledge about the cult must keep them awake at night. It would have saved us so much trouble if they had just gotten all of them in one fell swoop. I prefer it that way too, except that someone with a gun in their pocket made sure to remind me that things aren't quite as rosy. If we are indeed talking about the same group of people, then there's a faction of cult members scouring the city for lost books. And if drastic measures are an indication, they don't have much time left. I don't mean to sound harsh, but why didn't they just offer you right then and there? Maybe they're missing something they can't find their own. Murdering me would have only increased the risk of exposure, especially today, with surveillance at nearly every corner. So, what else are they up to? It could be part of this ritual didn't have anything to do with me. After all, the man only wanted to know about a stargazing technique and its timing in the book. Didn't say a word about any rituals. Either he's trying to hide it, or doesn't need to learn about any of the rituals from me. There is a 50 chance. 4 lives have been lost already. What do we do? Find out what they're up to. Then get help or stop them ourselves somehow. Sooner the better. They can't be like tea like this. Sooner or later, news series will get wind of it. And if the whole city is suddenly on high alert, you'll be in great danger. How about we burn those books? Stop them from falling apart and fall into the wrong hands. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, you little arsonist. This is our only way to understand what we're dealing with. You might want to drop a bomb into a fire to defuse it. I want to see what Jess comes up with. I feel sorry for the victims, but this is the first time we've had a chance to get a first-hand account. And the victims suffered unnecessarily cruel and violent injuries, making me wonder if it's also some kind of requirement. So the myth behind those murders might hold the answer to this mystery? It'd be very helpful if we gather the signs to further study the origin and purpose of the rituals. I don't think Just knows a lot about these things. He's a small-time detective, so he can move around without being watched constantly. But I doubt he can do much at an actual scene itself. When he comes back, we'll explain everything to him. He needs to be aware of how urgent this matter is. No matter what it takes, it's time for him to take advantage of his position. One book absolutely is not enough. We have to dig up more information about it, even if it means sneaking the body over to Hermitage. With that coward? The mess ought to be too much for him to handle. You think he's expecting too much of him? I think you're expecting too much of him. The dead can't come back. Even a sad affair, we mustn't draw on it. It'll just add to the pain. Figuring out why they died is only the only way to save our lives. That's the truth of it. And one that many people realize too late in their lives. What the fuck are you talking about? Nika frowns, having been a fan of her I can't even say that word, I don't even care. Of her depressing speeches, we'll just go with that. I'm just counting on this. I look at the clutter of files around us. One sickening photo after another, countless notes staring back at me. The notes are all belonging to one person. I can't shake this feeling. Could he really be a member? Just turns to Hermitage with an exhausted look on his face. It's noon already. He looks like he's been up all night and his hair's gone messy. His clothes are wet and dirty and is in severe need of dry cleaning. Scott left earlier, leaving Nico and me as witnesses to his sad appearance. Oh. Looks like scurrying the riverbanks left some marks on ya. Nico completely ignores the tenseness of this delicate situation and throws a pack of paper towels in Justin's direction. Justin catches our spotting, as usual. Arrange for the boat to be dredged took some time, but thankfully the water isn't too deep in that area. Someone was fishing there, but we found the body. He contacted the police immediately. Too bad he didn't give chase himself. That've only caused more trouble in the long run, believe me. He's given a statement, but I'm not in a position to ask questions. That's why I came back after listening on a statement, a little to brief you guys the situation. What was the scene like? Did you take a picture? I barely managed to get in and out without attracting much attention, let alone take pictures. I was lucky enough to have a spare cell phone with me to turn in. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to contact me. They must have scared the news leaking out. That wouldn't be good for anybody. If I remember correctly, the leaders of several countries will be here for an important meeting pretty soon. A series of murders in such a close vicinity would be the last straw for the police. It simply crushed them. Here's the gist of it. The culprit wrapped the victim in a plastic and sank the body into the river via a rope and a rock. Because of the rain that had fallen the night before, the river's current was swift, giving us barely enough time to retrieve the rope. Unlike the victim found in the sunk mud on the riverbank, this time it was further offshore. The body was dragged along the riverbed, so we're lucky to have found enough of it early. I found it earlier enough. Were you confirmed any injuries? I know water damage can make forensic identification quite difficult. The body wasn't in the water for long, but I'm not sure how to describe it. Justin's expression turns to a mixture of doubt and indignation? Indecency? I don't know. Indignation, sure. Immediately ruined the plastic. One of the most experienced detectives made a quick on-site assessment. The body had heavy cut wounds across the arms and lower legs, as well as some marks of some kind, just like the previous ones. His conclusion that bothers me. It's strange. He thought that these wounds and injuries weren't fatal. What? Are you familiar with ancient torture methods? The person's death is postponed often until the execution date, but the pain inflicted is so severe that the person being tortured felt as if they were dying, and oftentimes they did. And those injuries, they seem like they should have been enough to kill a person. Trust me. But somehow it wasn't the actual cause of death? That's right. His windpipe and lungs clearly showed signs of drowning. In other words, the body shut down after being sunk, not before. For some reason, clear facts like this calm me down as soon as they're on the table. I just can't comprehend such vicious cruelty. How could anybody with even a shred of humanity do something this hideous? Yeah, I'm with you on that one. They must have completely abandoned any forms of consciousness. Yes, but we still try to make sense of it. How could a healthy mind ever make sense of this? We have to ignore aspects of morality and consciousness in this case. It's hard, but we won't get anywhere otherwise. It's possible. It's best to re-examine the body found in the building. We should be able to determine the time of death from the wound and if most of the blood is removed. Well, at least I hope that part happened after death. Otherwise, it's straight nightmare fuel. Deliberately injuring and mutilating a body to cover up other traces sounds cruel, but sadly it's nothing new. Hold on a second. What are you trying to say? Why'd they go to such lengths to make sure someone died in the river? That is what we should be thinking about. At this point, there's no connection between the victims, and it's unlikely that they were tortured because of some personal vendetta. In other words, there has to be a purpose behind this. Even if they did it reluctantly. If a ritual called for it, they would have done it. Who knows what they might have happened if they didn't follow instructions. It's barbaric. That's what it is. You can look up some of the stuff the Aztecs did during their sacrifices. For them, it was perfectly normal. That's a great example. The values of good and evil can't be defined out of context. This is particularly evident in the case of religious activities, and this seems to be an organization that thinks it's doing good. Death is an end in itself. Do you mean things like that? Death is still too general of a concept. Time, place, identity, goal, cause, manner. Some of those points may be relevant to the killer than others. In our case, the killer went to great lengths to ensure the actual death would take place at a specific location. Something's off here. For now, the moment of death is all we need to find out. I'm glad I asked you and Scarlet to help the investigation. And there's still this whole thing about rocks. Placing rocks over the city while simultaneously trying to observe the stars to find the right moment, that's a lot of work for a ritual. Sacrifice so many lives for formality? Without any actual certainty or reason? The process itself plays a very important role. The actual itself is so obscure that I don't think anyone truly knows what the point of this practice is. In other words, no one knows what actually works, and nobody has enough professional knowledge to be the judge of that. Even our own neighbors. How could she do such a thing? I'm afraid there's no turn back for the old lady either. Why would you say that? Well, if my suspicions are correct, it's quite a long story. Oh boy, okay. So why was Hyld involved? It could be that one. I mean, duh. That one's obvious. I really need to read through it, though I'm going to. Always thinking that her husband and son are still alive and well. So she's killed them for this ritual, I would imagine. Conclusion: mass murder? Oh, here we go. To escape the world. House family has parents, sacrifices, and passages. In this context, yes. Okay, so that's definitely something. Outside of that, it's gotta be this one, right? Oh, okay, there's more, okay. So that's mass blood loss. I mean, yeah, the ritual summons the gargoyle. No, this isn't anything to Hyld. Okay. Okay. I think I'm finally starting to understand this case. A few decades ago, the country was nowhere near as stable as now. Things were terrible, especially for intellectuals and academics. They were persecuted because of their status, and suffered a lot of misfortune. I think Hyld's husband must have been one of them. Her husband had a bad disposition. He came to this country from overseas, and I heard that they had a lot of trouble before they moved here. People knock on their door and ridicule them every day. She's the only main member of her family. Return home after studying abroad carried such gigantic social stigma back then. Honestly, it's a blessing in disguise that he lived long enough to see the construction of the building in the first place. He returned to his homeland, full of expectations, but unfortunately, others weren't as open-minded as him, and his return was met with rejection. That's enough to shatter even the strongest of minds. He might have made some connections abroad, or maybe these people already had an influence on them. Who knows? Either way, they agreed on a plan, and they managed to pull it off very covertly. The photo is wrapped up in a frame that is painted white, the glass spotless. The paper inside, however, is spaghetti yellow. In the photo, a young family of three is facing the camera. Their expressions are a little unnatural, but happy. The only one in the pictures resembles a young Hyld. Strange scratches covers the faces of adults, as if someone wrote on them with a ballpoint pen, but managed to erase the ink somehow. The family gradually became part of the Visionary Society, accepting their teachings and participating in their activities. The society gave them a simple task: preparing descendants for the ceremony. A ritual passed down among the elders of the Visionary Society, in which they asked the gods to worship them. They worship to send them missionaries or servants, whose spirits are summoned from afar. However, these spirits require a vessel. Therefore, an infant is used to house the mercenaries' presence, so they may develop and grow. All of it's pretty brutal, but the two of them were clever enough to pull it off. They continue their work and live like ordinary citizens, making friends, hiding their identities. Then, a seemingly natural pregnancy, followed by a vacation. Until the day the baby was born. The Visionary Society was right on schedule. Years of patience were finally bearing fruit. The Society may have promised them something, or they may have hoped for something in return for their services. With the sacrifice a successful arrival of the servant, they'd hoped that these wishes may be granted. However, they required the servant to descend successfully. What's the matter, my David? But sorry, I was just seeing the picture. Thought it looked familiar. That's okay. If my David were as polite as you, he turned from a little boy to a man who won't even come visit. You don't want to be like him. I'm sure she told you about her son David. I'm afraid she'll have to prepare a wreath if she really wants to see him. In fact, she's the only member of her family who's left. And unless prepares with your means on passing knowledge, verbal retellings of rituals are among the most dangerous way of transmitting information. The Visionary Society may have not had a sufficiently large organization, and it's clear from the depictions of the books that they failed to discover the most vital piece of information. So you're saying the ritual failed? We have no way of knowing exactly what happened, and none of those involved left any record of it. The only thing we know is what caused a great deal of damage. At least her husband and eldest son were never to be seen again. As a result, the abandoned building became a dark reminder that the people in the neighborhood would rather not talk about. No one wanted to keep living in that place, except for one desperate woman. Building companies didn't want to continue the construction of the remaining residential buildings and turn attention elsewhere. People began moving out of the neighborhood, and the landlords had to lower their rents. Tenants started getting poorer, and the conditions grew steadily worse. A vicious cycle that has ultimately turned the district into an urban legend that the police don't want to get involved in. The funny thing is that the current residents are so focused on complaining about the shoddy housing situation that they don't even care how it happened in the first place. So it turns out the state of the building is actually the result of the whole neighborhood's neglect. In order to calm things down, those stubborn local inhabitants have kept their mouths shut until now. They refuse to acknowledge the facts or accept help of any kind. But if it was supposed to end here, the current situation speaks for itself. The ritual wasn't a complete failure. Although the loss was irreversible, Held kept a child. The Gargoyle grew up and turned increasingly inhumane, as described in the records. In order to supply flesh and blood as nourishment, the Vision Society left her some funding. That way, if they're low income, she'd be able to hold on for a long time. They wanted to meet the Gargoyle and take it away. The price was high, but that meant the reward would be greater. But you probably didn't expect the Visionary Society to be imprisoned for theft and murder. The members were arrested on the scene and couldn't escape decade-long prison sentences. It was until this year the Society's key players were released again, which means the Gargoyle isn't dependent on Hadeled anymore. Whatever the Visionary Society is planning, this is their last shot. Leaving this world, the one thing we failed to achieve. Once the ceremony is complete, you are taken to a whole new realm. Believe it or not, there's a place that is truly free of pain and sorrow. Spiritual transcendence? No. It's a pure kind of detachment. Staying in this world has no spiritual or physical value at all. Sounds like run away. Of course you understand. Just help us and no one will get hurt, okay? That's why, just after we released from prison, they immediately sought her out again, ready to continue their plan. Yes, and that's why I think the series of murders has another reason. What could this ritual possibly accomplish that would be worth wasting so many years and take so many lives? Try to fix damage by doing more damage. It's like borrowed money to gamble, a vicious cycle with no turning back. Who knows? This might have been destined to end in tragedy from the very beginning. But ceremony for God's servants would not be small. To put it bluntly, few human lives would be nothing compared to those mysterious entities. So if they had their way, I'm afraid it'd be a matter more than a few lives lost. So the question remains, what do we do? We take one more trip to the King Ring District. People aren't stupid. It's only a matter of time before the police focus their attention on the place. What with the whole series of murders. Now that Miss Lee's body has been discovered, it'll happen sooner rather than later. Do the police know who she is? It's hard to say, but I was the only one who recognized your face.
Maybe bad if someone finds out that you didn't report it, right?
Nah, I mean, it doesn't matter. If everything happened yesterday, it's best to proceed with caution. Who knows what else they'll do? Without preparation, asking us for help will just make things even dangerous. It's not too late. Thanks for your efforts. We have a small head start.
But why go there?
Do you think something's gonna happen 2 days in a row? If they were in any way sane, they wouldn't have done what they did to Miss Lee. They might be growing impatient and trying to get things over with before someone comes knocking at the door. But even the most cautious person will leave a trace sooner or later, which they did. It'd be foolish of them, but something forced them to act right after the snitch getting a visit. I'm sure they'd like to move somewhere else, but for a reason, they're bound to that building.
We haven't seen what's going on that rooftop yet.
Or if they're planning on doing something tonight or not, we have to make sure either way. If you end up in a suspicious situation, find a way to surprise them. Nico, I'll show you about the lock.
The chain's too thick to cut with large pliers. The lock's so rusty that picking them is bound to be a hassle. However, it's a perfect situation to use force. The cylinder is rusty. The lock is probably jammed in that position. I have the right tools here, but it's gonna be noisy. After all, I'll be confronting the cylinder with a hammer.
That doesn't matter. It'll be loud enough to wake other buildings. I doubt it'll be loud enough to wake other buildings.
Give me some cover. I don't want to find myself stuck in the rooftop as soon as I unlock the door.
A simple text message should suffice. How about I tell them I've changed my mind and that I'm willing to make a deal for the book they want?
You don't value your life at all that much, do you? What makes you think that they won't just come for you and take it by force?
Don't make such a big deal out of it. I'll keep them away from that building. And if we're successful, it'll matter who has the book in the end.
Fine, I'll go get the tools.
Wait, hold on a second. You're just gonna rush in there? Of course not. You can't leave this place.
I think you're simply only adding to confusion by that.
You're smart enough to not risk your life. You don't have to. Some efforts won't be in vain. As far as risk goes, well, that's just part of life.
If there's really some fish on the rooftop, I'll try to get it on film and hand it to the police. I'll fight a bit of vandalism if necessary.
If they hadn't carried out their plans at the building, we wouldn't have known about any of this. But now, I'll delay them for at least half a day, which is worth a lot when you think about it. It's too big of a gamble. This is a complete make-or-break approach. Time's running out. I prefer a different approach too, but start the way for us. The Visionary Society was released from prison at the beginning of this year, but the murder sprees only begin this month. How long do you think it will be until they reach that crucial moment in time they're looking for?
We can have me strong staying for the ritual, but if 4 people are enough, consider the current frequency of murders. I'm afraid the next one will happen sooner or later.
The police may not be able to stop the ceremony in time. Wait a few more days isn't just gonna make things easier. I don't want to stand by as the group continues the murder spree.
So you're pushing your own people to the fire? You're letting a little girl poke a hornet's nest for you?
She knows what she's doing.
She better. If it's really as you suspect, this guy has spent over 20 years raising a monster that sucks people dry, and it remains undiscovered in a residential area. Where do you think it's been hiding all this time? Save your breath. I'm not gonna fight that thing.
What makes you give a choice? I'm serious. Can you guys just take an extra 5 minutes to think what you're planning to do?
I think it's all been said. No need to repeat anything.
But wait a minute. Hear me out.
Damn it. Am I the only one who's worried about your safety? What's the matter, Mr. Detective? Things are messed from the start. There's no safe way to go about it. The only one who's worried? Man, of course I'm worried. I was the one who found out the bloodstains over there. Have you forgotten? In that case, you should. I should what? Sit around and wait for some clueless individuals to collect bodies and clean up the whole mess?
Did I skip anything? No.
Don't say we're worried. I'm scared to death. Whatever happens tonight, you can be damn sure I'll have nightmares about it later. I've seen things 500 times worse than this, without you having to remind me about how shitty my fucked up life can get. Get a grip, dude. We've been more than a few murders to solve, and right now, nobody's got a better shot at dealing with this than us.
I'll avoid putting pressure on Nico in the future if I were you. We're past calm reason at this point. The more troublesome everything is, the more calculating and careful our approach will have to be, compared to everyone else. Nico is the expert here.
I can understand if you can't wrap your hand around it, but at least stay out of my fucking way, okay? Just what the hell have you been through? More than you think. You've dealt with murders before, right? More than one? If not for the manager, never mind, forget it. You look like you haven't even been to high school yet. And? Got a problem with that?
No, it's just... I don't understand. I don't understand where your courage comes from.
Of course you'd be the one to ask that question.
Huh?
Do private investigators get paid well?
Not really, no.
Do they have a good reputation?
Not really.
Will the police haul you off to prison if you don't keep working this case?
It might cause some problems, but it doesn't quite like that, no.
So why are you still here if you can't do anything anyway? I'm afraid your mentor already knew about all this, but he's far away now. He had neither the means to stop these people, nor did he know about what happened next. That's why I chose to run away, because the victim's family would have been busy halting him for refusing to help, instead of getting involved themselves. Think about it. He's smart and knew what he was doing, but we're not like him. I've had so many nightmares, and I don't want anyone else to go through that. This is about whether we actually have the ability to pull it off. This is about making a conscious decision to do whatever we can, because we can't just twiddle our thumbs and ignore it. Do nothing will lead to nothing. You're like us, dummy. That thing with the camera? You didn't half-ass that job, did you? You want to be better than your mentor to prove something, right? Forget it. All this talk is doing any good. They haven't seen your face yet, and if you don't want any part of this, then go home. Get some rest. Time is of the essence right now, so I can't keep playing counseling with you. Bye. That's not the point. Hell, things aren't supposed to be like this. No matter what you're gonna say, someone has to do something about it. Yes, you're right. Someone has to. If any funny stuff happens on the rooftop, you'll try to get on a camera and hand over to the police, right? Don't forget the second part of what I said. If I'll have to do some damage, I will.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. What did you want to do? Well, I have to, Nico, pass you the bag of tools.
Wait, you're not going to...
The more troublesome everything is, the more calculated and careful our approach has to be. I admit, it makes perfect sense. Let the person the most suited to that task do it as best. Surveilling and videotaping, you say. Something of a job for an expert private investigator, if you ask me. Justin walks off into the night. Winter's getting close, and it's too early for the sun out to be yet. His coat protects him from the morning chill, and as always, it's heavier than usual, because of many things that have been stuffed into his pockets. Be prepared for anything, anytime. That's one of the most valuable lessons just picked up on the job. But now he's reached a point where he knows that simply being prepared isn't enough. Nico slipped him a few tools and weapons of questionable origin, but Justin opted not to take them with him. His job is to solve problems, not to cause them or make existing ones worse. Also, with everything he knows about the case, the only good defense for when things get out of hand will be to run away. Trying to fight and resist is foolish. He expressed a keen interest in the pencil Salil used to ward off the silkworm last time, but the store manager wasn't on board with that idea. It may not be effective against otherworldly entities. Justin doesn't know how effective about the intricate workings of that stuff anyway. He'd rather be cautious than rely on the items that might turn out completely useless. It's better to work at your own pace, and trust your own skills than depend on crutches like that. Standing in front of the building, once again, the whole scene strikes Justin as even weirder than he imagined. A deep growl echoes from above. It sounds like a horse's neigh, but more drawn out and distorted. Something's wrong. Nothing living nearby could sleep through a sound like that. It's 4 in the morning, yes. There isn't even a single light turned on in the neighborhood. All the more reason to act right now. The bizarre and unsettling atmosphere draws Justin in, paralyzing him for the moment. The sounds come from the rooftop. Time to go up there and check it out. Justin pushes open the building's door and enters. The moment his feet touch the floor, Justin suddenly feels extremely tired. What the? His body feels heavy. His joints hurt, his mouth is dry, his head aches. It's as if he has someone has woken him from a deep slumber. The only difference being that he wasn't actually asleep. No wonder all locals were awake, Justin thinks to himself. He doesn't have the faintest clue of how this works, but at this time of night, when people are naturally tired, anything to increase that feeling must work like a charm. Justin has learned a lot about Hermitage over the last few days, including being open to things that cross the boundaries of common sense and logic. He's close to falling asleep, but his drive keeps him going, only if barely. So he finally came out of hiding. The more drastic measures, the more desperate they must be. For Justin, that's bad news. The detective descends the stairs as quickly as he can. He still doesn't have all the answers. Did he come to this forsaken place to face the unknown? To bring the killer justice, or simply to confirm his suspicions? He still doesn't know. He wants to do the right thing, but what is right? The chains that were firmly placed in the door yesterday now lie scattered across the ground. The way the chain was cut suggests whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. There's no time to hesitate. Justin carefully pushes the door open to spy through the crack. What? Nothing could prepare for this. About 10 people on the roof, dressed in normal clothes, but wearing strange masks. Justin can't make out any details in the dark, but what he sees is more than enough to rouse suspicion. They're split into groups. 3 of them are trying to tie up Hailed. The rest of them are standing around the shack in the middle of the rooftop. They are chanting and throwing things around some sort of dust. The West Shack is covered in blood. Something must have happened very recently. None of them are shouting, but the atmosphere is unbelievably tense. What should he do? Justin does best to stay calm. His heartbeat is out of control, and it's making his chest hurt. He's angry himself for not realizing it sooner. And an old woman with nothing left to lose is a perfect target to be taken advantage of. And once they're done with their plan, she'll have outlived her usefulness. The store manager himself have been so focused on their own theories that they have been blind to any other possibilities. Just as the phenomena can't be explained by common sense, the truth can't be labeled as such without actual evidence. Premature theories and conclusions can't replace that. This time is the time to think about who's right or wrong. Justin stretches his stiff fingers and pulls 2 items out of his pocket. Ever since the first day he started working as a detective, he's known that he may be thrown into extreme situations. Still, up till now, he's never had to make use of any of the gadgets, and he's doubting their usefulness. Still, it's better than nothing. Justin shakes his head to regain his focus. Then the light fuse on the firecrackers in his hand before placing them next to the doorway. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The firecrackers blow up loudly next to the door. What's going on? It's now or never. A bright flash with a color temperature of 55K floods the rooftop. The firecrackers are right there, even blind during the daytime. Facial expression looks ridiculous right now. Sees the moment, just kicks open the door and rushes over the group of 3 who are dazzled by the light. Three of them cover their eyes in pain, no time to react to Justin rushing by. He's there. Keeping us at bay, Justin runs up to Hailed and pulls towards him. Hailed seems to have lost her energy to struggle. Never in his life would Justin have thought a small old lady would be so heavy. Are you okay? Yeah. Don't worry, it'll be alright. Hailed bows her head a little, mumbling something, as she relaxes her tight grip on Justin's shoulder, much to his relief. Most of the cult members are still blinded, wildly flailing their arms around in an attempt to distort shadows that aren't really there. Some are fiercely rubbing their eyes, trying to regain their sight. Justin knows by experience that they'll recover soon. He takes a look at Hailed, makes sure she's unarmed, and then picks her up and prepares to escape the chaos. He escapes well. That's a good screenshot. Alright. The shack in the roof center... You still center like that. Whatever. The shack in the roof center collapses or better yet explodes. It swells up like a balloon filled with too much air, then loudly bursts apart. The shadows, darker than the night, engulf the surroundings. It looks somewhat like a bat, but there are obvious differences. It's huge, covered in holes, as slickly appearance altogether. There's that sound again, like a nightmare of vision of horse neighing. There's an opening that may or may not be in its mouth. Justin can't tell, but the sound doesn't seem to come from there. The air around the creature vibrates and shakes, particularly around its lower half. The creature has 4 limbs and wings on its upper torso. That's about the only description Justin can give. We always explain new discoveries based on rhetoric, or similarities to things we already know. But how should we describe something that no humans have witnessed before? Gargoyle is, although he only just left the world, the word is the only name that comes to mind right now. It's enough to instantly fill with dread. His blood is boiling in his veins and rushing to his head. His bones feel strangely cold, and a sense that pierces his whole body. Regret, remorse, irrationality, every part of his being is telling him to run, but his trembling legs are stuck to the floor, trapped in his own body, the paralyzing fear that takes control of him. His heart sinks at the realization that he's looking at something that doesn't belong in this world. We're gonna talk to it? The man-like, horse-like, bat-like creature is struggling to get rid of the rope and around his body. The ritual must have worked. The creature appears weakened, and the rope netting restraint is unusually strong. Like by the creature, though more powerful than any human on Earth, is struggling to free itself. Some debris were sent flying or crashing down, burying several people and knocking them off the rooftop altogether. The creature's strong legs are moving about, no longer fully restrained by the ropes. The roof isn't that big. The agitated creature is thrashing and rolling around, smashing everything within its reach. Hell no. Hail's trembling, which is enough to make Justin regain some of his focus. It's now or never. Justin moves towards the exit while shielding Hail with his body, knowing the creature could ever stand a fighting chance against a creature like this. Maybe a gun would keep the odds low, but even a small-time detective, as Justin, isn't allowed to carry one. Tales game is set in the US. Justin is going by his impulsive grab of people and get out of his way. They knew what happened and wouldn't have gone to all trouble for nothing. Interrupting now would be less stupid. Justin is overwhelmed by everything that's unfolding in front of him. Though he has vowed to be more minded when it comes to things that don't seem logical at first, it's nowhere near as easy as he thought. Hermitage here may be... An intense pain flashes through his body. The cold metal embedded in his arm makes his muscle fibers twitch uncontrollably. The pain is so bad, for a second, he thinks his entire arm has been torn off. Justin didn't even notice the silent sneak attack from behind. Though not big in size, the metal shape is easily pierced Justin's flesh. Severe pain makes him shiver and break out cold sweat. He can barely remain standing.
Why?
Hal ignores Justin's agonized cries as she pulls the sharp metal object. Then she turns around and towards the disorganized cult members. It's obvious she doesn't have any intentions of helping them. Ignoring the debris and clutter surrounding around, she seeks out the members under the cover of all noise confusion. Once close enough, she either stabs them or pushes them towards the center of the roof, right into the eye of the chaotic storm. She doesn't seem worried at all about the gargoyle hurting her. Or maybe she doesn't even care?
It's her! We need help! The rope won't hold for much longer. Where? I can't see anything! Ah, it's coming!
Body violently flung through the air, sliding across the ground and leaving a long trail of blood behind. It probably isn't enough to kill the man, but surely won't be able to walk for a long, long time. Though his legs are still shaking, Justin attempts to move and get close to the victim on the ground. The man is holding a small dagger in clenched fist. The twisted blade looks fragile, making it apparent that it's a realistic dagger, or ritualistic dagger, more than anything else. It's covered in strange carvings and coated in unidentifiable liquid. The dagger is obviously serves a bigger purpose than stabbing people. The man on the ground is unable to resist at all.
Sorry for letting me borrow this for a moment.
At least Justin looks more useful than Salil's improved ruin pencil. At least Justin has something that he used to for good use. Since the excruciating pain is starting to fade a little, Justin can move his arm again. Though it was small, the barbs on the piece of metal made pulling out excruciatingly painful. The chaos continues to unfold, with an increasing amount of unconscious cult members piling up on the ground. Though they tried to regroup to restrain high yield, the creature's intervention stopped them dead in their tracks. Justin hides the dagger in his sleeve, which gives him a small sense of security. Everything is in shambles and out of control. High yield is still on a rampage, but the fact remains that she's just an old woman. This makes the gargoyle the biggest problem right now.
Get out of here! Ah!
It's time to act. Just takes a deep breath and tries to sneak up behind the creature, though he's unsure if it even actually has eyes, or how much firecrackers would have affected its ability to see. Come from behind should allow him to move closer without being noticed. In the darkest of night, Justin makes his way to the corner of the rooftop towards the door. Its thrashing and loud growls are accompanied by hissing grasps. It's obviously in a weakened state, but that's no reason Justin should do anything rash. Closer, just a little closer. Just takes one careful step at a time. According to Hermitage's theories, the failed ritual should have severely weakened the creature. Though still vicious and a force to be reckoned with, it's exhausted and it's at its most vulnerable right now. There's nothing he can do. There's no way he could face the creature one-on-one or protect the people that are being ravaged. Run away is a smart choice. He has to get back to the bookstore and tell the store manager what's going on here. See if he can get another painful sensation. Already weakened by the priest's attack, Justin's body is close to failing now. Something hits the ground behind him. It must have been something real with a real sharp edge. At least, that's what the back of his head says. He can see something come closer, but can't move at all. Heavily concussed, Justin's brain is no longer control his body. The blow to the back of his head has robbed him of his last remaining ounce of strength.
Justin, listen to me very carefully now. It is your decision to leave, and that's fine by me. However, there are a few things I must say to you. It's my responsibilities as your mentor. Do not ever consider yourself a hero. A detective's job is to solve a problem that already exists. You cannot stop a tragedy from unfolding. The best you can hope for is to stop it in its early stages. If you continue on your current path, your naive idea of justice, sooner or later, you'll run into a problem that'll be too much for you to handle. There's no telling how that'll end for you. Is that why you gave up? I only do what I can. I never overestimate myself. That's in my best interest, and everyone else's too. How so? You're not solving anything by running away. Some wounds never stop bleeding. Do you have what it takes to bear that pain? That's just the way things are. Too many people think they have what it takes. Forget it. You've probably had enough of me talking about this anyway. I'm not gonna force anything on you. Just as I'm not forcing myself to do things I don't know I'm equipped to handle. I hope I've taught you well enough so that one day you can make a living with it. Try not to forget it all the time. Sometimes you have to take a good look behind you so as to not get lost. Go out there, do your thing, gain some real-life experiences, and heed my words. Once you've done so, let's be for a drink one day. My treat, of course. I can't wait to see the kind of man you'll become by then. I'm really looking forward to it.
A cold wind is blowing across Jess's face, almost cold enough to freeze his watery solid eyes. Though he can barely make anything out, he's relieved to discover that he's at least still on top of the rooftop, so that's good. Everything else, not so good. Everything's still in ruins. A few loose bricks and pieces of wood are all that remains of the shack. The only thing with the semblance of order appears to human bodies, lined up along the roof, arms side by side, heel to heel. Somebody must position the bodies that way. Justin's head is still throbbing as all manner of strange thoughts race through his mind. Trying to identify the source of his pain, Justin turns to glance at his left shoulder and stares right into the big evil eye. One of Justin's questions is answered right then and there. The gargoyle does, in fact, have a mouth. Right now, it is wrapped around Justin's shoulder, gnawing away at his flesh. It's an indescribable pain, freezing him right down to his bone marrow. His body is powerless to do anything against it. Alright. It just me as if a syringe has been rammed into his shoulder. However, Justin realizes that nothing is being injected into him. Quite the contrary, something is being poured out of him as hastily as it's being absorbed by the creature. Blood. Suddenly, he understands why the bodies are lined up the way they are. Let me go. He lashes out and attempts to kick the creature, but to no avail. Lifted into midair and struggling hard, a big chunk of his flesh is torn out of his shoulder. The pain is enough to nearly make him pass out again.
Are you awake?
You hear Harold's voice come from behind him.
You aren't moving at all. So I thought you were dead. Just hold on a little while, okay? The blood won't flow if you're dead. That'd be inconvenient.
I yelled slow and casual tone, sent shivers down just as fine.
You. All of them. Oh. Do you mean these guys?
She kicks the body lying on the ground close to her. It collapses on itself, as if it was completely torn apart and drained. Its arm rolls away over the ground.
That one's already served its purpose. I'll clean it up later. Oh my. Now that there's no one left, you're gonna help me with that.
She rubs her neck as if she's thinking about something, but abruptly stops herself.
Never mind. I'm sure I'll find an efficient way to go about things.
The creature's wet tongue wiggles as it lets out short gasps, almost as if it's responding to high yield.
Do you plan on finishing the ceremony? A ceremony? Oh my. It sounds so refined when you say it that way. It hasn't finished, wouldn't you agree? Otherwise, all this effort would have been for nothing.
She picks up the kitchen knife lying on the ground. Justin saw it back to her apartment, but it had fewer scratches back then. Strictly, the thick blood dripping from the blade, Hayel starts to stare at it, so lost in thought that she doesn't even pick up on the rag that's also lying on the ground. Although Justin's vision is blurred and he can't see much, a chill aurora is emanating from Hayel that clearly communicates her maniac, obsessive thoughts.
Face it. There's no way to go through with this on your own. You failed. Let it go. There's no point being stubborn. Don't worry. So much power, people. I may be old, but I can remember everything just fine. Every single step, what to do, how to read it. I feel like I've seen it played out 7 times before, though I can't remember where. You do realize what this ritual is for. They used you. Even if you succeed, do you really think it'll bring back your husband? Please calm down and think it over. I can see what you're worried about now.
Hale drops the kitchen knife and walks up to Justin, who is being suspended in midair by the creature. Then she wraps a wrinkled hand around Justin's throat.
It's okay. I heard everything. These people can't be trusted. Or else they wouldn't have dragged my family into this.
Hyel's whole body trembles as she seems to recall half memory.
This time and place need to be picked very carefully, and a bunch of people needed to serve as stepping stones for something far greater than themselves. And I can't let all this happen for nothing. Over the last 2 days, all of us were in a hurry to make sure everything is ready for the big moment. We barely got enough people together, but the ritual is fragile enough and prone to fail if we're even one person short. Naturally, I want to be included. I want to be part of it. Whatever happened to respecting elders' wishes? But there's always a way. There's still a chance.
Justin's vessels are close to bursting as he tries to stay awake, but Hyeld's words are starting to sound more and more faint by every second.
Why did you...
What to do?
David says he just wants to go back. But he's in bad shape. He can't even take a single step without grasping for air. I blame myself for his father and not taking better care of him. We should have fed him better. And I need all of those people over there. They can help. David will finally be able to eat and feel better. He spent the last 10 years withering away, feeling hungry every single day. I'm old and frail. I don't have much time left. And this might be our last chance.
David, your son, should have been part of the ceremony. If he doesn't find a way to talk sense to Hyeld and make her snap out of it, he's gonna die right here, right now. Justin's vision fades as his eyes flicker. With the last remaining air he has left, in his lungs, he hears a few words. you want to bring someone back who's already gone. What do you need to bring back? I loosens her grip as she starts staring at Justin silently. Her eyes darting around the room as she looks very confused by this all of a sudden. What are you talking about? My David's right here, isn't he? The two of them are obviously alone. The store manager never mentioned that Hyle is only... The store manager mentioned that Hyle is only a member of her family. That means it's not her son who will bring forth the Gargoyle, but Justin almost struggle as he pieced everything together. Now then, let's proceed as planned. With a big smile on her face and a tiger around his throat, Hyle continues to choke Justin. It's just as he's about to lose consciousness, Justin sees tears forming in Hyle's eyes. So, huh? Is this your family's fate? His clear, sober thoughts make him regain some strength. He no longer looks Hyle in the eyes. There's no need anymore. You can't stop a tragedy from unfolding. He was right all along. Hyle ignores Justin's mark and tightens her grip. You just spout nonsense, my boy. There's no need to worry. Once David's eaten enough, no one will ever ask questions again. Nobody will get in our way. No more interruptions, just me and my David, on our way to see his father. Hyle hums a strange, off-key melody in a deep voice. Her arms are shaking. Justin can sense the decades spent in loneliness despair. And right now, her strongest emotion is relief. It makes Justin feel more determined than ever. Just try to stay calm, gritting his teeth in an attempt to ignore the bite in his shoulder. Do you want to know something? I'm nearly there. I think I'm almost ready to believe what my mentor told me. What are you talking about? Hyle doesn't understand what Justin's word means. Unintentionally, she loosens her grip a little. She leans closer, waiting for him to repeat himself more clearly. Just doesn't miss the opportunity. It's nothing. We just all take a look at ourselves, our past selves, at some point. Bend the knees, lift your legs, hold your breath, and focus all your energy in your lower back. And then, release it all at once. Ha! Even though he spun in the air, his kick saw a strong impact. Bearing the full brunt of his impact, Justin's ankle throbs with pain. Justin's unrelenting kick sends Hyle throbbling backwards. Two of her bodies, she lying along the roof. She ends up a few steps away and makes to the top. Starman's reacher is correct. The Gargoyle does possess some kind of intellect. Ignoring the prey still dangling from his mouth, it focuses all of its attention on Hyle, the only person it recognizes. Exactly the kind of chance Justin's waiting for. Although it's a real dagger isn't the same as a miniature camera, it's roughly the same size. This is what Justin prepared for. He twists his wrist to slide the dagger out of his right sleeve. Grunting with pain, he wraps his left arm around the creature's neck. He then stabs the dagger right into the creature's eye. Justin is nearly sent flying as his fish in the field sun turns upside down. The Gargoyle is no longer trying to cling to his shoulder, but Justin has no intention of letting go. Targeting his eyes won't be enough. Just once for all, Justin needs to hit a more lethal spot. Justin knows what to do, but it's hard to actually pull off. He holds on tightly to the dagger. The strange liquid on the blade that was used in the ritual is flowing down the hilt. Soon, the hilt will be too slippery to keep holding. The important question is, where to stab next? Though the creature's in bad shape, a prop like this could never compare the actual weapon as far as it's concerned. Stabbing the creature without a clear goal will only cause a flesh wound and damage its skin, and Justin couldn't afford to waste time on futile attacks. Damn it. Stay down, you foul beast. Oh no. They may look damaged and worn, but the creature's wings work just fine. It extends to its neck and soars upwards to the sky. A huge jolt. Then everything around Justin shakes and trembles, passing him by faster in this process. And And just like that, the rise disappears. His blood feels like boiling, and it very well may be. His internal organs feel like they are being crushed by his own ribs. He can feel his skin tearing. Darkness extends around him, a shadowy abyss, deeper and darker than all of his worst fears combined. No human can fathom their own insignificance when faced with infinite vastness of space. He doesn't know what to do. A voice in the back of his head is telling him what lurks within the dark, infinite space, but he can't think straight or do anything right now. The pain becomes almost too bare. The gargoyle seems confused, twisting his head around and flapping its wings on the spot. It resembles a child that lost its way. Humans can survive outside the atmosphere for a short amount of time without a protective suit. Justin read something about that in the science journal once. Although the exact number of minutes escapes him, he knows that Steel certainly doesn't have long. Most times already up. From the pain, Justin climbs to the creature's back to provoke some sort of reaction from it. It was his mouth that make a sound. Right before its wings start to spasm, Justin knows whatever's happening can't be good. And he's right. Without prior warning, the rapid step begins. Dwarf lands and both of them rolling across the rooftop. That's about normal. Justin feels as if he was stuck in a pipe and thrust out of it by the built-up pressure inside of it. It's as if he is propelled towards the ground by a jet engine, yet somehow he came out unscathed. Just before hitting the ground, everything slowed down. The sudden halt and change of speed made him sick to his stomach, like coming to an abrupt stop in a high-speed elevator. No, David! Hyle is still standing the same spot as before. That means little time has passed since the ascension. A great distance for a short journey, Justin shakes his arm and counts the fingers on his hand in disbelief, just to make sure he's actually alive. Neither he nor the creature would survive on a trip like that. The creature's on its knees next to him. Its chest is heaving, and it seems to just be just as exhausted as Justin. No matter how hard the crash was for it, it survived. Though badly injured, it slowly makes its way towards Justin, never letting its prey out of sight. This is a battle whose outcome ultimately depends on sheer resolve and determination. Justin desperately tries to move any way possible, supporting his trembling legs in a staggered stance. His eyes are set to the door. His body's too weak. The fight is taking a huge toll on him. Even though he's moving, the door doesn't seem to be getting any closer. He can see the creature's shadow rise behind him. A shadow flies dangerously close to Jess's cheek. In an attempt to stop him, Hale threw a brick in his direction, which he barely manages to dodge at the very last second. Dodging the brick comes at a price, however. Just stumbles and feels through the rough concrete connect to his face. Oh no. The creature doesn't idly sit by. Senses an opening, it immediately approaches Justin with raised claws and ready to tear into his flesh once again. Justin counts himself very lucky to avoid the attack. The gargoyle extends his damaged wings once more. However, the foul stench covered the creature is even more putrid now. A deep growl issues from the creature's throat and moves even closer to Justin's face. It seems sure of its imminent victory. This chance has been waiting for all along. Liquid shoots out of the creature's eyes toward the sky. It howls in pain. This could be an attack that finishes off for good. It lashed on a fit of fury, but the anger can't make up for its impaired sight. Its rush attacks miss Justin and smashes into the ground next to him. Still in pain, he managed to lift himself up a little. The dagger broke in the struggle, but the short part of it is still intact, is sharp enough for an attack. Got ya. Just fiercely thrusts the dagger forward. He has never hurt anyone before in his life. It all feels weird to him, but desperate times call for desperate measures. This is the only chance. The logical choice is to... Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I remember something in the dialogue was about like the lower abdomen area. Would abdomen isn't abdomen chest though? I don't think it's wings, and I don't think it's aim for the head. Can I save before I do this? Let's save. Okay. Because if this is wrong, I don't want to redo any of that. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be... But admin... Is admin chest? What is an admin? Am I even learning the right word? My gut was this, so I'm going to go with this. It has bird wings, so I doubt they do much in a cosmic environment. As soon as it leaves the atmosphere, it makes use of other body parts to move around. According to the book, the corresponding organ is located in the lower abdominal. Okay. So I remember the word, or I remember what it looked like. Lower abdominal, not abdomen, abdomen. Wait, isn't the abdomen the abdominal? I don't know. Regardless, so it's either the chest or the lower body, and I have no idea which one that is. It seems to do... I'm not sure how the principle is supposed to work. Being served of a greater entity or gargoyle and descends from the heavens when summoned. It's such been decades, that's the reason. Either has fulfilled its mission yet, or its means of travel been blocked, leaving it stranded down here. Another reason, being trapped here on Earth, I'm afraid that this is a little more serious than just a bird with broken wings. Although Justin wasn't there in person, Nico gave him all the details to prepare for this. Mere moments ago, escaped seemed just like the only viable option. This piece of information, however, changes everything. Justin quietly thanks Nico, raises his arm. So I think we got that right. Swinging the dagger in an unpredictable way ensures that it connects to the target. The creature desperately tries to shake its body in an evasive maneuver, but Justin is close enough to hit its target anyway. This hunch is correct. Come on. Oh, God. I figured as much, but... Actually, let me look that up. Where's the abdomen? Because, like, when I first read that, I thought it was, like... Obviously, lower body. I don't even know how to spell abdomen. Oh yeah, Adrian, yeah. Let's look up Adrian Pierce, that's a good idea. Oh, well, doesn't matter to me. Alright. This creature is flapping in its wings erratically. We're up a storm of dust and debris. Justin must up all the strength he has to hold the dagger and steadily slice through the creature's abdominal area. Let's see another screenshot. He just doesn't have it in to hold any longer. His strained wrists give way as he moves aside the creature's side of the body. A deafening roar. It makes clear the gargoyle's terrible pain. Its wild struggle to get rid of the dagger. It bashes right into Justin. Prevents venom from sinking its teeth in Justin. The impact from its head is almost enough to knock off his feet. Justin feels his organs about to burst. He does his best to try to breathe steadily. The creature pays no mind to Justin as he twitches and flaps wings. Blood is gushing from its lower abdominal area. David! Helen drops her weapon and carelessly rushes over to her son with a worried expression on her face. David, are you okay? Oh no, my poor David. Let me see. There's so much blood. I'll help you. I'm here for you. You in pain? Talk to me, please. Tears are streaming down Hyla's face as she drops to the ground and anxiously examines every single wound in the creature's body. It's a truly bizarre sight, and through all, the gargoyle remains perfectly still and calm. The scene in front of Justin is utterly strange. It's as if a child is taken care of by its mother and having been in a scuffle. Without for all the murder and madness around it, this might actually be a sight to behold. Just a much titled and the creature cycle together, peaceful and calm. The gargoyle slowly flaps its wings up and down, and then it sinks to the titled's shoulder. What? A dark shadow rises up, and the gargoyle takes off in the air. Justin is the only one left standing. He can do nothing but look on as if Hyld is lifted into the air. Stop. Justin almost trips over as he rushes towards Hyld, but can't reach her in time. David, what's wrong? I clearly understand what's going on. Shouting, kicking, screaming, she can't do anything to stop what's happening. The girl's wings are now fully extended. Justin can't tell if it's real or just an optical illusion, but they seem to grow bigger now. Dark liquid is dripping onto the ground in firm puddles, although it's hard to tell if it's human blood or because of darkness, but it sure does smell like it. Don't you dare. In a flash, the gargoyle rises up and instantly disappears in the sky. Right to the night sky. Making yourself believe a lie is the easiest and hardest thing to do. You can't understand why Hyde acted the way she did. Maybe she's convinced herself that the truth so desperately wanted to be real. The roof is large and the sky is infinite. Some of the boundaries no longer exist. The unfathomable has suddenly become reality. I have to run. Justin's desperation finally gets the better of him. Oh my. You're not doing so well, are you? Who's there? You'll end up being the hero for this and steal my limelight, but that's okay. I mean, the voice line is the random ghost voice said it, so. The creature comes crashing down from above in an instant. Its whole body is glowing as it stretches. Its shape is violently elongating. It looks as if somebody's forcefully shoving it down a drain pipe. Wait. What's going on? The creature struggles and manages to regain its posture for a moment, but there's nothing it can do to stop what's happening. The process repeats itself. This time, the creature's struggle is futile. Flesh and blood rain down from above. The creature won't let go of Hyld even now, refusing to separate from her. Hyld! Justin sprints towards the rooftop's edge. Looking down, he can see a deep, dark abyss opening up around the building. No. No. Justin is at a loss of words. Man. Not sure what kind of voice to give this guy. My assumptions seem to have been right. The ritual is never actually completed. That voice again. Just doesn't recognize it, and the person it belongs to doesn't seem to be inclined to introduce themselves. The person's words seem even more vague in the dark of night. Summoning the gargoyle is a delicate process. It's mostly about guiding it correctly, since it could have easily lose its ways otherwise. Even its most devoted worshippers should pay great heed to its upcoming descent. It's no surprise to me that things turned out this badly as they did. These people made mistakes every step along the way, with a complete disregard for even the most crucial aspects of the process. Even if it takes 20 years, what is destined to happen will happen. Though, it's hard to guess how capable people will be at this point. What did you do? Suleiman's dust, the only real way to stop the creature. While you were tussling about the gargoyle, I managed to sprinkle some of it on it. The only thing I had to do was recite that spell. All of this sounds very alien to you, I'm sure. What's that sour face? Is that the expression you give someone who's just saved your fucking life? That's not the kind of
thanks I expect for cleaning up such a gigantic mess.
Lighthearted attitude is apparent in the old man's voice, and Jesus. Lighthearted attitude is apparent in the man's voice, and Justin's getting angry. Lighthearted. Well, I'm doing his voice wrong. Oh well, I like the mysterious voice, so we're sticking with that. He's clearly a villain.
Cleaning up the mess? You can't be serious. Don't you see the creature is still carrying a person? So what? Don't tell me that you had a better plan than that I just so happened to interrupt.
The man's eyes are glinting in the dark, filled with a sinister stare. The tall man steers, places his hand on Justin's shoulder.
Let's be serious for a moment, young detective. You probably weren't expecting any of this. Am I right?
What are you trying to say?
The world is a twisted place. More messed up than you ever thought possible. Now you've caught a glimpse of it. If you can't handle it, you might as well end your life right here, right now. This is the end. There's no turning back. You have a lot of choices. Either close your eyes and accept it, or it'll end as quickly as you can. I like you. You're somewhat of a diamond in the rough. It'd be a shame if you never reached your full potential. I don't understand. What are you trying to say? That's enough serious talk. At least for now. You must be tired. Huh? Sweet dreams. But wait a minute,
Really? What? Well, never mind. There's something you can do about it now, so come back here.
Who is on the phone?
It's Nico. Justin left a message and then ran off. I was worried, so I sent her to see anything from the situation.
And how is it?
It's pretty awful, but they're also lucky. There seems to have been quite a lot of people involved, so there's no official investigation since the place was just such a mess that they don't know how they're dealing with it yet. Nico said that the police moved several unconscious people off the rooftop. She didn't recognize any of their faces, though.
Do you mean that this thing fell to its death?
Can you imagine? A messenger of gods losing against gravity? How humiliating.
On the other hand, there was one body at the scene.
Yes. Nico even strolled around the block to make absolutely sure. The rooftop must have looked like as if a typhoon passed through, but thankfully the debris didn't reach the ground. She found some blood stains indicating that a storm took place, but there was no sign of anyone else. And even if there had been, the heavy rain in the morning would have probably washed it away.
God forbid. Then again, you're really willing to send Nico on errands when it's storming like that.
It wasn't me. She was really anxious to find Justin.
Oh, I see. There's a story there.
Those two get along better than let on. Anyway, even with everything being as messy as it is, I'm afraid that she made the trip there for nothing.
I doubt the monster just went crazy the night and fell to its death all by itself.
According to Nico, there's a lack of blood, although there have been several people at the scene of the struggle.
There are still no clues. You think someone hard to clean up the aftermath?
Just as no one is missing, Hale isn't already found either. Something must have happened. Nico found plenty of small traces in the wreckage, so not everything's been cleaned up yet.
Whatever happened? It sounds like there's not really anyone left to arrest and convict.
Right now, our priority is to find Justin. If somebody's been cleaning up the traces, I wouldn't want to be caught in the crossfire. I just hope he's alright.
As long as I don't know where he is or what happened, that's beyond our control.
Right, so what are you thinking?
I'll go meet up with Nico, and then I'll meet up with you later.
Be careful out there, okay?
Crap, his phone's working either. What the hell happened?
If the man is indeed competent and resourceful detective, he'll be clever enough to have his phone turned off while conducting field work. I just need to clarify. If you knew about the conversation we had in the store earlier, the only right thing we can do right now is to wait for the detective to return safely. What's the reason for your visit? For this visit? You're not here to wait for me with me, I assume. Ha, you made it rather difficult for me to answer. As a matter of courtesy, I did in fact want to do the exact thing while you prematurely denied just now. You're acting as if you're close to him. He shrugged shoulders, silently proved me wrong with satisfaction. Very well. Then let's not get to the matter of business out of the way first. I'd like you to hold on to this for me. This is... He's holding a small brass bell. It's a real treasure, but of course, that would be an accurate description of all the things I delivered to you. That sounds skeptical, but after all these old books, this is... I take it out of his hands, is surprisingly light. That is not how I spell light. That is not how I spell light. As though it isn't made out of metal at all. As a matter of fact, it feels clearly weightless. What an odd feeling. I pride myself in being knowledgeable in the field of archaeology. I've never seen anything like this. I don't recognize the symbols on it. What era is this from? It's simply from an era you couldn't understand. Saying that with such certainty that a researcher can't possibly know anything about it just makes your intentions that much more suspicious. Quite possibly. But my behavior may not be considered normal to other people. That much is true. It does soft scholar and throws a glance on the door. I acquired this particular little bell from a group of very bad people in a very bad place. Now, I have to ensure it's a safe place, otherwise the crisis won't reach even bigger dimensions. You're just putting a lot of faith in me. This place has been very crowded lately, so I'm worried your trust might be a little misplaced. Don't worry. It doesn't even concern your abilities. I just get something back. And once I'm out here, there is a reason for left to be. Sounds like just the perfect moment to drop by and cause me trouble yet again. Well, at least this is an opportunity for the two of us to have a little chat. I have my hand submissively, taking a piece of cloth to wrap the bell in before shaving it to a drawer. Or shoving it into a drawer. You want to talk about things here? All your expression shows me is that you, as always, know way more than you're telling me. Well, truth be told, you asked for a lot of information a couple days ago, right out of my way to gather all sorts of gossip in the city. If you already knew what's going on, why keep this up? Just make me look like a fool? The detective you're involved with was an important piece of this now. I need to know if this current situation has anything to do with the old friends I'm dealing with. It's as simple as that. I'm afraid you won't get any useful clues out of me. Even though the dust settled, most details are still obscure. Decided so. That's a shame. Does the name Gargoyle ring a bell? Godly servant? I've heard of it, yes. Though, I've never had any touchings of its alleged powers. You could never possess enough knowledge, especially when you may be dealing with some large religious cults. Any additional information about them may prove useful. Have you ever been confronted with this creature? I wouldn't exactly call it confrontation, no. But as soon as you've seen as much as a glimpse of it, it's fairly easy to imagine the extent of the carnage it could arise when it becomes agitated. In that case, you understand better than I do at least. What could have happened to make it fall like that? It would be impossible to ride on its back and force it to come crashing down from high in the sky, right? Even if there were a brave man who dared to do so, he would not have actually left the sea unharmed. I wish upon anybody to go through such an ordeal. Naturally, I am unsure about the exact consequences, but logically speaking, the outcome could be not a positive one. The servant who carries out great cause wishes proudly to travel among the stars, his loyalty forever unwavering. Each time he spreads his wings, he straddles 300 stars, suns, and moons, the god's vesture, the god's carriage, the god's limbs, and the palms, the god's great will, / end the color red. Because,
I did think I would take up 2 text boxes with this sentence. So, we're under the color red right now, by the way, just so you're aware.
An otherworldly creature for whom the distance between planets is just a tiny step fallen to its death on a planet as measly as ours?
Mankind has managed to defy nature by creating steel wings to fly. But this wouldn't stop creation from coming crashing down in an unfortunate incident, would it? It's basically kind of a plane crash? That would be strangely funny. I mean, everything has flaws. Since the creature's birth was already flawed, I'd assume in itself it doesn't know where its limits lie.
The length those people went through, only for this god's servant to die like that, I can't imagine the look on their faces.
Either way, their loss is irreparable. Hours or later, Bill's disappearance will attract the attention of the police, and for me, I'd highly advise against getting involved in a long, messy investigation.
I just hope this wave of chaos doesn't send ripples throughout the city. Morale is already low with the recent fatalities, and things like that can drag people down pretty quickly.
My opinion's rather different.
What, you think it's not bad enough around here lately?
Confusion is what the surface, opportunity lies underneath.
You know, throughout history, people who said such things were often nutcases, outlaws, tyrants. Nothing good has ever come from anybody with that point of view.
I just wish the city itself were more involved. Then the dirty sand rubble would rise up once again, and breathe the fresh air opportunity.
And let me guess, you have taken advantage of it somehow? Hermitages aren't bad, but I think your attitude will hurt the innocent citizens of the city. At least it has these past few days.
Chaos is merely a symptom. Treatment is not always comfortable or easy, yet I'd wager that most people would rather suffer through fear and pain than die.
For events of this magnitude take place, you know damn well that your words alone won't be of much help.
Rest assured, after living this long, the only thing I'm good at is using fear to be good.
There's that classic villain speech again.
Unfortunately, this incident had little to do with the actual target we were pursuing.
That sounds rather ominous. I'm beginning to wonder if there's a force that's wiggling around places we can't see, start most of us trouble.
Even my previous suspicions, I'm afraid you'll have to.
Okay. No need to give me any hints. I realize by now that you won't stop speaking of riddles. Justin's on our side, and I have a feeling that he'll be a great help in our future investigations.
You seem quite worried about his well-being just a moment ago.
I still am, but I choose to believe him. If those puzzles looked at me. He looks confused, but I'm sure he'll understand what I mean. I pick up the files Justin left on the table and remove some of the dust that inadvertently fell on them. After all, he's a proper detective now. I thought we were in the chapter. Oh boy. Alright, I guess we'll keep going here. Or honestly, I don't know. I think, yeah, we'll call this episode here, and then we'll finish up chapter next episode, and probably start the next one, because no, my luck, there are probably about 5 quotes here before the end of this chapter, but oh well. I'll see you guys next one. Peace.